Welcome to the Emblazing Leaders Vodcast. I'm your hostess, Dr. Talisa Sullivan. Join me as we hear from leaders across diverse fields around the world. Why, hello. Dr. Patrice, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How about you?
I'm doing great. It is so amazing to have you. I want to introduce you to our audience, and I want to introduce our audience to the amazing Dr. Patrice Harris. Are you good with me just giving a quick introduction?
Let's do it.
Let's go. Okay, so I want y'all to meet Dr. Patrice Harris. She is an amazing and accomplished educator and a former banker who now leads as the principal of Bell Mountain Middle School. And just to let you know, she is in the Menifee Union School District. She has a doctorate in educational leadership from Azusa Pacific University. She brings years of experience in school administration and a passion for student success. Let me tell you what she's known for. She is known for improving attendance, reducing suspensions, and boosting college and career readiness. She also serves on several educational leadership councils and continues to champion innovation, collaboration, and equity in education. Y'all, put y'all virtual hands together for my sister, my friend, my colleague, Dr. Patrice. Yay! Thank you.
Applause.
Again, it's so amazing to have you in this space. I love your energy. And I just want to, I want us to pour into our emblazing leaders on this day. And so let me ask you a few questions to kind of get us started. And we're going to start off with talking about navigating the leadership space. And you and I both know personally that it is so important for us to know and understand how to navigate leadership. And so tell our audience more about your leadership journey. What would you say has shaped you as a leader?
Oh, well, I will say even from childhood, there were some characteristics and things, hindsight looking back, because when you're in it, you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I was much younger, I was very observative. People would think I was quiet, and I everything but that. I like to watch and learn and then do. And then once I figured out as I got older, what my strengths were, everything started to pull in together and make more sense. So I always say people who don't know me think I'm quiet. People who know me are like, she's not quiet at all. So that in that journey itself, just kind of realizing I was really pushed into leadership, starting with, I'm 4'11", so I've always been into basketball. I played a lot of basketball. And one thing I noticed is that the coaches would always push me into a leadership type position. I was the point guard. I'm the smallest person on the court. And guess what we have to do? We've got to run things. Right. We got to run the plays. We have to execute. If somebody's off, we got to call them out. Mm-hmm. All the way down to, my coach leaving me to start practice because the coach is running behind. And they used to call me Little Bit. But he would say little bit with a lot. And so from that point on, I think that's where the leadership skills were developing. Was as a basketball player, having to strategize all the time, keep people upbeat, keep them moving, which transitioned into my first career of banking. And I started at ground zero. I was a teller. I just handled the money and gave it out and did whatever I was supposed to do. Was eventually pushed into management. And then from that point on, I encountered some barriers that at the time I was unwilling to fight and not mature enough and didn't have the skills. So I was pushed into education. More so, I would see in the bank all these educators coming in the summer, big smiles, and you could tell they were just living the good life, from my perspective, because we were 7 days a week. And once I hit management, I was stuck there. So for 7 days a week, we're talking from 9 a.m. to 7 o'clock. But I was still smiling and engaged. Kids would come in. I had a whole setup. So I was thinking about everything. And there was an educator that said to me, she says, "Hey, I noticed that you take to kids really well." And she would always bring her daughter. And she was like, have you ever thought about education? I was like, nah, I'm good. This
What?
is doing what it does right now. And eventually I started to explore, and I actually started as a secretary
Oh, not. Oh,
at a
wow. I didn't know that.
continuation school. Yeah. So I started as a secretary at continuation school and started to really learn the ropes. I was in a grant funded program
Hmm.
that was set up like a mental health clinic.
Oh, wow.
And I learned the whole ropes. And at that time, I decided I was going to be a social worker because I was supposed to solve all the world's problems
That's what we do.
and fix people. So, so I was in a social work program
We
looking
do.
for a social worker until I found out, more detail about it. I literally was in my last class, my final presentation, and my college professor said, "Have you ever thought about teaching?" I was like, "Okay, this is twice." And I was still in banking at the time. And I said, "Well, no," I said, "but you're not the first person who's asked me to do that." He said, "Your presentation was so compelling." And I'm thinking a presentation doesn't make you a teacher. But on our way out the door, he walked me over to a counselor and laid out a whole program, including a master's degree.
Oh, wow.
And from that point on, I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued because I was already working. I was doing two jobs. I was still in banking. I was still at the school part time. And I was like, you know what? I like what's happening at the school as a secretary.
Hmm. Oh, okay.
Maybe this is where I'm supposed to go. So I quit banking, went full time, and then started subbing. And history goes there. I mean, I ended up at high school. They started me at elementary, and I found out that was probably not the best fit for me. So, middle school position came up, and I was there temporarily covering for a colleague of mine.
Hmm.
And I really loved middle school, but that position also ended because I was temporary. I ended up at high school permanently.
Nice.
And from there, it was kind of history. I am like the typical textbook of what they call how women sometimes um, are pushed into things, and then
Hmm.
we don't necessarily just go because we're qualified, we have the skills. So I was pushed into leadership as well from department chair and then right into administration. And in order to get there, I had to leave a few places. Uh,
Yeah. That's interesting because that's gonna that we can actually go there, leaving a few places sometimes. And when we talk about navigating the leadership space, well, first let me just say, I love hearing about your journey. I learn something new every day, and I learned that I didn't know that you started as a secretary in education, which is really good because when you get a chance to understand that experience, and it's really admirable to be able to understand that experience and then move into a teacher role, leadership role, those types of things, because you can say you've been there and
yeah,
you understand, and it helps as we make decisions. So I appreciate that. And then as you talk about leaving a few places in order to move to the next level, sometimes that's what it takes, and that's part of navigating the
right,
leadership space, right?
right.
So
And they say sometimes you have to go to grow.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes we're still growing. But what I always say is that if you let me learn, let me lead, let me grow, I'm good. The
Hmm.
moment that I stop learning, leading, and growing, then what am I doing? Right.
Hmm.
And so I appreciate that. And I did want to go back to something that you said too, because you said what you like to do too is you like to watch, learn, and do. And
Hmm.
that is a part of the leadership journey as well. So I certainly appreciate that insight on this morning as we talk about navigating the space and what has shaped you as a leader. I heard so much about like your athletic experience, being a point guard that that started you, kind of gave you that start, and hearing that people push you into positions because sometimes we're content, you know, and
Hmm.
when people see something in us, instead of allowing for us to be complacent, they will nudge us. And then
Hmm.
we're like fighting backs and forwards. And then in order for us to make more of an impact, we do have to move to a different space.
Right.
So I appreciate you taking the challenge from the bank and then from the secretary position, from the elementary to the middle school, and then eventually to the high school, because we need great leaders. So thank you for that. We're going to move to the next question. So I want to talk about experiencing triumph. How do you maintain a positive and solution-oriented mindset when facing significant obstacles?
Well, I have a very strong spiritual background too. So
Hmm.
I was raised in church. We went to church with grandma.
Right.
And I learned from some very strong women on my mom and my dad's side.
Hmm.
Um, where we all, as I look, my grandmother was a leader as well. But she was always positive. Like I would be like, this doesn't seem like a situation where we should be laughing. And my grandmother always kept a sense of humor. Um,
Mm.
she was always she was the jokester. One of the things she said, I'll never forget, as an adult, she said to me, she says, if you don't make one person laugh a day, you haven't done your job. You haven't earned your keep.
Mm.
And I said,
Wow.
I kind of like that. But I've always been kind of a goofball anyway. So
Mm.
I like to laugh. Everybody who knows me, I'm smiling. And if I'm not dropping a little joke here and there with a straight face and looking away, they know that's not me. I maintain, positivity because I do love people. And so that's the biggest thing you have to do as a leader. You have to love people and you love them right where they
Mm.
are.
Mm.
Some of them are pretty jacked up, but that's the best presentation they have for you. And if you can remember just that one thing, that's the best that they have for you. And then our job is to help them, to see what more they could do. So I think, remaining positive is not only spiritual, but you have to want to, and you really do have to love people, because if you don't love people, then you're in the wrong job.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. You said a lot in such little words. You said a lot. And you talked about your spiritual background, which is amazing. And that's sometimes what gets us going when we're facing any type of adversities or any obstacles or any of that kind of stuff. And then, laughter, like I learned something about laughter that I did not know. Even if we're not laughing for real, like if we create a fake laugh, that still brings out those hormones that we need, those happy
Yeah.
hormones that we need in order to like change the mood or whatever. It really does enhance the mood. And so if you're in a mood where you're not so happy, if you fake laugh, and I hate to say fake laugh because I really want to be laughing for real, but if I'm not happy and something's happening, if I can make myself laugh, it really gives us those happy hormones that we need in order to change the scenario, right? So I loved hearing you talk about laugh, and then you talked about love, and it's so hard because you said people are presenting their best selves, right?
Mhm.
People are giving us their best selves, and what we are doing is sometimes poo-pooing on their best self. So what we need to do is love their best self and
Mhm.
help them bring out the best in them. So I appreciate that. Yeah, it's because it's hard. We're in the role that we're in, sometimes in leadership roles. We face these obstacles, and then we have to still present ourselves in front of people.
Mhm.
So the nuggets that you're given today are going to help a lot of people move forward in just navigating the space where they have to still lead while loving someone who is some may seem unlovable, right?
Mhm.
And I say seem unlovable because everyone has loving qualities. And
Yeah.
it's our job to find those qualities and bring those out.
Mhm.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you. All right. So we're gonna switch it up a little bit and talk about advancing in careers, right? So because I know that one of the things that we do as leaders is we're constantly looking for, I don't want to say the next level as in leveling up, but we're constantly looking for how to make more of an impact. And I don't, I mean, I know that that's why I love to look for leadership opportunities, is because my goal is to make a positive impact.
Mhm.
And so we have to have like certain things that we do. So I want to know about any key steps. What are the key steps that you took early in your career that you believe were crucial for your advancement into a leadership position?
Well, my philosophy that's been instilled in me since childhood is go get your education and take what you can, get as much information as you possibly can, and then once you have a good grasp of what you're trying to do, then you
Mhm.
pursue it regardless of all the no's, because they always say rejection brings you closer to your yes. And so I prepare for the rejection because I already know that's a part of the journey. But to make sure that I'm educated. So even before I went into a leadership position in education. I had already started my doctoral program. So, because I knew that I had to be prepared for what was coming, and I have a problem solving nature,
Mm-hmm.
or as I always say, I have a dispensation for things that are difficult. People who don't want to do it, I'm usually the one that's like, I want to try that. so, so I think preparation through education and the right mindset, I think is extremely important. You have to have the right mindset. You don't just, as I say, you don't just jump into something all willy-nilly. You research it and find out what you're jumping into. So I think that's really important when we're looking at that piece.
Yeah, thank you. I was picking up on some things, and I was actually capturing the word growth mindset, and then you said it because you were talking the way you were talking. I was like, I was like, wow, I love this portion right here because what she's talking about is growth mindset. And then you actually said the words growth mindset. So I was like, okay, I knew I was getting that because you mentioned prepare for rejection. You also mentioned talking about like, oh, you know what, when people see things as a challenge and see things as difficult, that you look at that and say, I want to try that. And that's where I got the concept. I was like, oh, she's talking about having a growth mindset. And then you mentioned it. So I thought that was really cool. And just the preparation piece, and I was thinking about like some of my former roles, and I was like, why didn't I do that? Why did I just jump right in feet first? So sometimes we forget that instead of jumping in feet first to something, that we need to take that opportunity to prepare through education, as you mentioned, and then also preparation for rejection. And some may say that that's not positive, but I say that that's a realist.
Mhm,
It's a
mhm.
realist because there are going to be times where people are not going to, like, it just brings me back to when I was younger. I was a lot younger. Like I probably was either in my teens or my early 20s. And, it was probably over some guy or something like that. I was like, he don't want this. I was like, oh my God. My sister was like, girl, everybody don't want you. And I was like, oh, that really resonated with me. And when I say that, I mean it in the most way where when we go to interview for jobs and when we get ready to go into the next, place, everybody is not looking for the skill that we possess,
Right.
and or maybe they are and they don't know they are. They want something different, and so it's okay. And another mentor of mine actually said rejection is protection,
Mhm,
or rejection is redirection,
mhm.
right? So those are some things that we have to think about when we're rejected, instead of taking it personal, because I used to take it personal when I was younger, even though it wasn't in the field of education. Again, it was probably over some guy or something, and I was being rejected or something. I would take it personal. And now I don't see rejection as a personal attack. I see it more as a redirection, or I see it more as a protection. And there
Right,
have been some times where I've been like, thank you for not giving me that, because it was a protection. So
uh,
so I thank you for bringing that back to the forefront today, because people need to hear that rejection is redirection, rejection is protection, and prepare for that.
right.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me see what else you mentioned. You also did talk about like just doing the research, like looking at like getting your education and things like that. And so I want to put our out there to our Emblazing leaders that, looking at your education to be your part of your journey will help you in navigating and advancing your careers too. So
Right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, because if you always see it this way, when we go on a vacation, don't we pick the best airline and the best price? We spend hours putting things together. And for some people who are extremely detailed type A people, they do an itinerary, like we're gonna do this first, and then we're gonna do this first. So there's a level of planning that goes into that too. And I learned over time too, in my doctoral program, uh, when we did strengths-based leadership.
Hmm.
Um, and for me, it was a huge aha too. So I'm a
Hmm.
strategic intellect learner, maximizer, and positivity. So I'm like a thinker by nature.
Yeah.
So if I see things, I just kind of go, okay, okay. And then I go back and I look and I do my research, or I watch to go, is this really what I'm picking up on? Or is it just me? So I always shift it back to me as well too. Um, as I kind of look into things a little bit more closer. So I think that research piece, just to reiterate that, it's so important, especially in the field of education, because you can go from city to city, district to district, and see that everyone has a certain character or a certain, archetype for things that go on, and it may complement your leadership skills,
Hmm.
or it may bring out the worst in you. And so you have to be very careful, and you have to, as they say, know thyself. Because
Mm.
if you do not know thyself and you're jumping around, you're gonna find that you're not gonna enjoy what you're supposed to enjoy, which is the people.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? You really said a lot again in just a little bit of words. And it really, I want to hone in on knowing thyself. I want to hone in on that because a lot of times we often get into a situation and we blame other people for why things are going wrong. And we don't take an opportunity to do some self, reflection. And then also, when you mentioned, you know, that the situation can bring the worst or the best out of you, those are some things that we really need our emblazing leaders out there to hear and to know, because sometimes we're going in and we're jumping into a situation and it's all wrong for us and we're blaming the organization or we're blaming the people. So um every organization and every situation is not going to be suitable for our leadership style, our leadership type, and we have to know that. And I truly appreciate that on today because it gives me some food for thought and it gives us an opportunity to really have these dialogues and these conversations with our mentees, with our mentors, asking our mentors, hey, help guide me in this process, or then just giving the conversation to our mentees, knowing thyself, understanding how to navigate the space, seeing if this is appropriate for your leadership style, and if
Mhm.
this is going to bring the best out of you. So thank you. Very great insight. Amazing insight. This is exciting. I'm thrilled. I feel privileged today. We still have a few more questions, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to just say how privileged I am to be able to have this conversation with you and to kind of pour into people and to have your words of wisdom and your expertise in this space today. So thank you for bringing that to this
Yeah.
on this day. We're going to do some leadership insights.
Okay.
We're talking about leadership insights. So how do you balance being a servant leader with the need to assert your own perspectives and decisions?
Well, it goes back to making sure that I'm aligned with myself first.
Mm,
And realizing that while sometimes I may feel a certain way,
mhm,
got to let my intellect lead in some cases, and sometimes my feelings. I have to be able to decipher between that. I was listening to someone yesterday, and they said something along the lines of, "Your feelings can't be your engine; they need to be your caboose."
mm,
So, in certain situations, my feelings are the caboose
mm,
because I have to do. Sometimes I have to do what's best for the organization,
mhm,
but I still have to love the people. And so the feel that I try to give is to see the person first.
mhm,
But at the same time, is what's happening going to be best for kids in the field of education? If I was in banking, it would be something different. But in
mm,
education, what's best for kids? And so always looking at that as your guide, and if it doesn't fall within that, then there's some more questions where you might have to manage the hat. And there's other times where you're being a servant. I've had some, I will tell you, this year's been one of very unique years. And I've had to navigate some very special situations that required me to be more of a servant to our community members and to some of our
mm,
kids. They're dealing with some hard stuff.
yeah.
And so sometimes that meant I'm making a phone call to see how a kid's doing, or to see
Yeah.
how a parent's handling a situation if they need anything. Just to show it, just caring for people.
Yeah.
So it goes back to caring for people, and sometimes it's been a colleague. See, I always, even though I supervise, I try to remind myself that they're still my colleagues, because
Yeah.
in the end, we're trying to do what's best for kids. Uh,
Mhm.
There are times you have to navigate what happens within the organization and make sure that it's supporting that vision. But a good vision is going to support kids and people anyway. So,
Yeah.
so in all, when you think about the bigger picture and what it all really means, we're all supporting the people in the end, and we're serving them. Leadership, what people forget. Someone told me a long time ago, leaders are we're target practice for other people because they throw things at us, and they come really, really fast. And there's some things you have to catch, and some things you got to swat away. So I always look at it that way. And as a servant leader, you know, there's things I may have to swat away because it doesn't align with what the organization is trying to do, where we're trying to go. You acknowledge it though, because everybody deserves to be validated. So you try to acknowledge it, but at the same point, as a leader, we redirect it back to what we're really trying to do. So being a servant leader to me is, if I've got a kid who I find out there's a car accident, a death, if something's gone on outside of school, and this could be the spiritual side of me, is to pick up the phone and call them, check on them. If you can't get an answer, we have systems in place where you can send them a brief message and say, hey, thinking about you guys. Hope things okay, can't wait for your kid to come back. I mean, it can be something as simple as that, but it means the world to some people, and sometimes they need that because there's a sense of belonging that needs to happen with not just the organization, but the people who are there.
Wow. Yeah, you know, I got into my own thoughts for a moment. And so while I was listening, because I'm usually a pretty good listener, while I was listening, I was like, I had a moment, and I'll go back to that in a minute. But what I really wanted to point out, I wanted to point this out because Emblazing Leaders, the reason why it's Emblazing Leaders is because it goes beyond education. And I love the idea that this is your second career, because you were a banker before, as you mentioned. And I love that. And I love the what we're getting insight twofold, because we're getting insight from an educational perspective, but we're also just getting a total leadership insight. And what you said was, you said, oh, you know what, everything has to point back to, what's best for kids. You said, because that's because we're in education, it's best for kids. If I were in banking, it would be something else. And I appreciate that. And I wanted to pull that out, because for our Emblazing leaders out there, our leadership is about whoever we're serving. And in the case of education, we're serving kids. And a lot of times, as you mentioned, in leaders, there's some things that we'll have to take in and others we'll have to push out. There's also the opportunity for us to see that if we're taking care of the kids, there also has to be their adults that we're taking care of as well. And so we have two jobs kind of as leaders. Everything always points back to kids, but in the process, and as we're going through to ensure that all of our kids are okay, we have to take care of the adults that are taking care of the kids too, and the adults that are taking care of the adults that are taking care of the kids. So we kind of have a couple of different jobs that we have to do, a couple of different levels of servant leadership. So I appreciate that. I think the other thing that I said, that I heard you mention, like, I like how you put it when you said we have to take in some things, and some things we have to swat away. And I really needed that on today. And that was my personal moment. The personal moment was to listen to what people have said, reflect on what has been said, take in what you need to take in, use the information to do what's necessary. Some of the things we might have to just swat away. So I got that. I took that personally. I think I needed that on this weekend. And then I hope that one of our Emblazing, or all of our Emblazing leaders, will take this opportunity to hear some of the golden nuggets that's coming and use that to navigate this space. This is so good. I have more questions though. If you're good with time, I'm good. I have a few more questions for you. So future forward, let's go into, what advice would your younger self give to the leaders sitting before us today?
I think my younger self would be like, just go for it. Just do it. Just go for it and do it. Because by nature, I'm a thinker. I will think things through. I will research it. I will look behind it. I'll watch it. And my younger self was more, what are you waiting on? Let's do this. I mean, especially as a basketball player, you don't sit there and think for too long. You think for too long, somebody's running you over.
Yes.
So
Yes.
So I know my younger self will be like, "What are you waiting on, girl? Come on, let's go. This is go, go, go." But then my more mature self is saying, "You can't be in too much of a rush either." So you got to find where that balance is and be able
Hmm.
to identify when to go and when not to go, and then don't get distracted. So
Oh, nice. Hmm. Wow. Wow, your younger self has some good advice. And this has been such a pleasure. Is there anything else that you want to tell our Emblazing leaders before we end our time today?
I always say, there's a little folder I made.
Okay.
And the front of the folder, and I know you probably know, you guys are probably familiar with this. There's this poem that talks about it's called "Don't Quit,"
Okay.
and it's easy to look up. Let me see if I can find it just
Oh
real.
yeah, let's look it up. It's called Don't Quit.
It's called "Don't Quit."
Okay, we'll try to see if we can get our staff too to see if we can find something to put across the screen if we could. So don't
I,
quit.
I found it.
Oh yay.
When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems uphill, when the
Hmm.
funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Let me see how long it's a nice size poem. Life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns, and many a fellow turns about when he might have what one he had he stuck out. Don't give up, though the pace seems slow. You may succeed with another blow. Often the goal is nearer than it seems to a faint and faltering man. Often the struggler has given up when he might have captured the victor's cup. And he learned too late when the night came down how close he was to the golden crown. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. And when you never can tell how close you are, it may be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when your heart is hit. It's when it
Hmm.
seems worst, you must not quit.
Wow, that wasn't too long. That was actually pretty good. Well, thank you. So don't give, what was it? Don't give up?
Don't give up. Don't quit. As a leader, there will be days where you want to quit. And I know some leaders who will say at the end of the day, I quit, I quit, I quit. They're joking. But I always say, be careful what you put out in the atmosphere.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that's beautiful. That was a beautiful poem. We appreciate that on today and just appreciate your leadership. We appreciate your time. This has been such a blessing for myself, for our Emblazing leaders. So I want to thank you, Dr. Patrice, for showing up and answering the call and just pouring into our Emblazing leaders out there. So without anything else, I'm going to say have a great day today and join us again on Emblazing Leaders with Dr. Talisa. We appreciate the golden nuggets, the information that you've provided, and your second career as an educator extraordinaire. So have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever it is for you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.